I've been living here in South Italy now for 7 years, and I've got to be honest with you, there are some things that I will never ever do again, having spent this much time living in this country. So we're going to talk about 10 of those things in today's video. Starting with number 1, I will never ever buy groceries online ever again. I have never, ever respected food as much as I do having lived in this country for 7 years. In the UK, I used to take advantage of all the home delivery services that the supermarkets offered. I would open my laptop, click on the food I wanted, and literally trust somebody else who has no interest in me really, other than just their paycheck, to select the food that I was going to consume. And trust me, now when I think about it, I remember that I used to have moments where I used to have not particularly fresh fruit and vegetables delivered, or items that were picked with a very short shelf life. And that is the danger of not picking your own food and not having that care and respect and attention for what you are going to consume. Living here in Italy has taught me how that kind of shopping is soulless when it comes to the food that you eat. That kind of shopping is best for technology items, gadgets, things around the home, but not for the food that you consume. And this shows just how much I've changed. It's not the done thing to order your grocery shopping through your computer screen here in Italy. It's the done thing to go into the supermarket, physically see with your own eyes and touch with your own hands the food that you are going to consume. And I actually think your appreciation of food deepens as a result of having that kind of experience. It sounds really like woo-woo and a little strange for me to express it like this, but it is true. I don't think you appreciate things as much when you see them through a computer screen as you do in real life. And it's the same with lots of other aspects, but especially so with food. So this is definitely something that I will never, ever, ever do again. Number 2, I will never take food for granted again. You all know, if you've been following me for some time, that my diet in the UK was pretty terrible. It was mainly like ready meals, fast food, or kind of like processed sauces. And I used to think that I was eating fairly okay. But, moving here to Italy has shown me just how important fresh food really is. How simple ingredients can create a dish packed full of flavor that you don't need to spend a lot of money to eat well. I've really changed and 360'd my entire approach to cooking, to food, to what I consume. And, even down to the fact that pasta for me now is a daily food staple. Whereas when I lived in the UK, I very much bought into the mindset that it was really bad to eat too much pasta. You'll put on weight, it's not good for you. But of course, if you're combining it with processed sauces, then yes, that's very true. But the way that I cook it here is with fresh ingredients. And as a result, I've never felt better eating it every single day. So my appreciation and gratitude for food has increased so much that it's something that I will never take for granted. And I actually feel really, really bad now if I have to throw away some food because I forgot to eat it or because it's gone off. I have that kind of mindset now where I don't want to waste anything. Bread that we've kept out for a couple of days that is now stale will turn into bruschetta. We do our best now to kind of use the ingredients we have in other ways if we can. And it's something that really helps me to appreciate something that we all take for granted in all the countries around the world. The one thing that is wasted the most in a lot of countries, yet many people wish they could have food. And so I thank Italy because it's completely changed my mindset to this. And I realize how food is now such an integral part of my day that I could never take it for granted in the same way again. Number 3, I will never eat dinner at 6 p.m. again. For 7 years, I have never eaten dinner at 6 p.m. And I spoke about this in a recent video. I'll link it up here. This or that video where I was comparing aspects of the UK to aspects of Italy and kind of which I prefer now 7 years in. So go and watch that if you're curious to know a bit more. But for me, a 6 p.m. dinner just doesn't exist anymore. And for me, 6 p.m. is a snack time. It's aperitivo time. It's not the time to sit down and have dinner. 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock tend to be the times when I eat the most here. And my body has adjusted to that. And it's interesting how quickly you do adjust to these subtle changes. Although I will say to you, a lot of people have commented in recent videos that in the north of Italy, people do eat a little bit earlier. So Just as I'm about to tell you next with what I will never do again, you can never give one blanket answer for all of Italy. Like, different parts of Italy are slightly different to each other, but here in the south of Italy, it's really uncommon to eat dinner at 6 p.m. of an evening. So it's just something that I will never do again. The next thing I will never do is I will never think of Italy as one country again. Now, as I've just spoken about when it came to the times that people eat dinner, every part of Italy is so different to each other that it's extremely difficult to give a blanket answer for all of Italy. In fact, I tried at the very beginning when I started my channel to talk about Italy in this unified way, and I very quickly learnt from all of the different comments on my videos that it would be impossible to do so, because it's not even just like different parts of Italy, like northern parts versus southern parts, or the islands, or whatever it may be, the central parts, but it's even down to like the individual cities and regions. Like, you know, it's just so diverse here in terms of the mindsets people have, the traditions people have, the way people live their lives, the way the bureaucracy is organized. It's so different. And, you know, people in Sicily say that Sicily is not part of Italy. It blows my mind. So I will never ever think of Italy as just one country again. On a map, maybe, but in reality, in everyday life, it really isn't. Like, your experiences can vary so wildly in this country, and you don't really understand that until you start living here and experiencing it for yourself. I will never assume that English is spoken everywhere again. Now, this is something that maybe at the very beginning I naively took for granted. I believed that English was a language that the majority of countries around the world spoke. And, you know, it was only when I started living here that I realised just how poorly English is really spoken in Italy. And it stems back to how badly taught it is in the schools here. And so I really had a bit of a culture shock at the very beginning, because surprisingly, English is not the world's most spoken language. It's actually Mandarin Chinese. However, it almost feels like it is, only because so much of our mainstream content is in English, whether that be films, whether that be music, whatever it is, the majority of times those aspects are in English. So it's natural to assume that this language dominates the world, but the reality is surprisingly somewhat different. But still, this is something that I have very humbly come to terms with and understood, that it is impossible to believe that English is spoken everywhere. You have to be ready and willing to learn the language of Italian in order to fully integrate into life here. I got by in the early stages, but my journey needn't have been as difficult if only I had taken the time earlier on to study the language. And that's why I'm so keen to stress this to you. Please don't neglect this. You will not survive purely using English in this country. Even if you do live in the northern parts of Italy, you will still need to have a good grasp of Italian to navigate things like bureaucracy and day-to-day matters. So never take it for granted that English is spoken in this country. It's a big lesson that I've learnt, and I really want to stress that to all of you as well. I will never hold myself back again. This is a big one, because I have felt at times living here that I have held myself back a little bit, particularly when building this YouTube channel and when trying to create content for you. I think at the very beginning, I was trying to please everyone and creating content that maybe at the very beginning didn't really have a strong enough message. But when I really understood what it is that I wanted, in the sense that I wanted to tell it to you exactly how it is here and to help to educate you and show you the reality of life here, things changed somewhat. And I will say to you that my life now is so much better as a result of me not holding myself back. I feel like I finally got into the flow with my content. I'm very, very proud of the fact that I'm so honest about what life is like here. And also, I'm very happy to be in a situation where, to quote the founder of Dermalogica, you have to piss off the 80% to reach the 20%. The trolls, the people that comment on my videos with negative things with no sense, I'm pissing off those people to reach the 20%, which is you, who really appreciate my content. And that to me is so important. And it means I cannot hold myself back for people that are not doing anything better in their own lives. You must always be authentically you in everything that you do. And now I feel like I am that with my content. I'm proud to be the person that tells it to you straight, whether you love me or you hate me. At least when you watch my videos, you will have a realistic portrayal of this country. And that to me is super important. And no, I won't be holding myself back anymore. And I feel really good about that, because you should never hold yourself back for fear of being criticized or for fear of ridicule. You must always be true to you and go after what it is that you desire in that way. It's really, really important. We'll also never take people's word for gospel ever again. Now, this has been a huge lesson that I've learned here in Italy, because it's very easy to get lost in the niceties of what people say to you and believe what people say to you at face value. However, anything of importance must absolutely be written down. It ties into the Latin proverb that spoken words fly and written words remain. You must never, ever, ever assume that because somebody has told you something, that is going to be what happens, unless you've got something in writing to back it up. I learned this the hard way, mainly through renting properties here. Things were promised to us verbally. We didn't get them in writing. And then when it came to signing the contract, those things were not present. And it became a situation where denials came about. We never said this. We always said it wasn't included. And then what can you do? In that kind of position, you've lost, because it's just a matter of he said, she said, which is never going to bring about any kind of a result or outcome. So this has been a huge lesson for me. Everything in writing of importance, work-related matters, matters concerning your home, anything which you think could potentially be used in the future or you may need to refer back to in the future should be in writing. Don't believe the niceties. Words are very, very easy to speak, but when they're in writing, do they really mean something? I will also never make detrimental comparisons again. Now, I say detrimental because it's normal that you're going to make comparisons in life. It's not possible that you can go through life and never compare one thing to another, but it's the detrimental comparisons that can really sabotage your experience here in Italy. At the very beginning, when I first moved here, I did make a few detrimental comparisons comparing Italy to life in London, namely around like employment and working conditions. And it didn't make me feel good as a result. And now I don't really make those kinds of comparisons anymore. I might say sometimes, when something frustrates me, gosh, it's not like this in London. However, I've come to learn that the way things are here are just the way things are. You need to watch this video up here if you want to really understand just why having this mindset is so important. But if you constantly compare and you are constantly looking backwards, you are not present for one, and you are not able to enjoy the life that you are building here. And you know what? Sometimes we put those rose-tinted glasses on, right? Everything in the past seems to be so much better than the present, when we forget that probably in the past, we too had stresses and were going through difficult situations. It's just we like to gloss over them now and kind of look at them in a different way. So we need to remember that nothing is ever perfect, but we mustn't make those detrimental comparisons, because it will really hinder your ability to enjoy your life in this country. And it's something that I'm never going to do again. I will also never make excuses again. And this comes in many different forms, from learning Italian through to kind of like the way I approach my life, through to procrastinating on stuff, right? It's so easy to make excuses. At the very beginning, I was like, I don't have time to study Italian. It's going to be too difficult, rah, rah, rah. And then I realized that this is just an excuse, because if you really want to do something in life, you find the time, you make it happen. And if you don't find the time and you don't make it happen, you don't really want it as much as you think that you do. And, it's not easy for people to come to terms with that. Some people don't want to believe the fact that maybe they don't want it like they thought they did. But this is the reality of life. So I'm not going to make excuses anymore. If I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. If I'm not in alignment with something, I'm not going to do it. I don't need to make excuses. And if I find that I'm not doing something but I should be, I'm not going to make those excuses. I'm going to do the thing that I need to do. I'm going to find the time to study Italian. I'm going to find the time to work on the stuff that I want to work on. I'm going to find the time to build better systems and create a better life for myself. It works in both ways. And so this is a really powerful thing, because when you stop making excuses, you actually start making progress in your life in whatever shape it may take here in Italy. And so that's something that I'm never going to do again. It's all about taking action or accepting that something isn't what I want to do and then letting it go. It's not about coming up with empty excuses. Finally, I will never look at life in the same way again. This sounds so dramatic, but it's true. 7 years of life here in Italy has taught me so much and continues to teach me so much every single day. I do not view life with the same eyes that I viewed it when I first moved here from London. I see things so differently now. And in a way, that's a really beautiful thing, because it shows my evolution, it shows my growth, it shows how I've been able to overcome some really challenging times here and live a much better life as a result. Stuff that I just would never have been able to do when I first came here. Like, it's just the growth and the evolution of my life through the experiences that I have had here. Moving abroad is an incredible experience. Like, it teaches you so much about life, but about yourself, because trust me, take yourself out of familiar surroundings and you really get to know who you really are as a person. Because when we are constantly surrounded by people we know and in familiar environments, we don't really connect with ourselves often enough in the same kind of way. And so I honestly credit Italy with giving me this profound outlook on life and seeing things through different eyes. And it's probably one of the greatest things that I will never do again, is look at life in the same way. Because why would I want to? I came here to Italy to live a different life and to have different experiences. There's no way I want to go back to looking at life the way I did when I first moved here. If you've enjoyed this video, this is the video that I think you'll enjoy next. I will see you in the next video.